The afternoon light glints off the turquoise pool water, refracting into 1,000 diamonds across the rooftop of Seoul's most exclusive penthouse. Lauren stands frozen at the pool's edge, her champagne glass trembling in her hand. The laughter started as a whisper. Now it's a wave. She feels the heat of 100 eyes on her skin, specifically on the silver lines of scar tissue running down her shoulder, across her collarbone, disappearing beneath the burgundy wrap of her dress. The fabric she'd chosen so carefully this morning suddenly feels like tissue paper, transparent, useless. Just smile. Just get through this. Just stay invisible. But invisibility is impossible when Min-ji Park, Seoul's most vicious socialite, is pointing directly at her with a manicured finger, her voice carrying across the party like breaking glass. "Are those track marks? Or did someone try to fillet you like a fish?" The crowd's amusement ripples outward. Lauren's vision blurs. Her heart hammers against her ribs as fragmented memories claw their way up. Atlanta, the apartment, his hands, the knife, running, always running. She turns to flee. Her escape is already mapped. 3 steps to the elevator, 45 seconds to the lobby, forever to disappear back into the shadows where she belongs. That's enough. The voice cuts through the laughter like a blade through silk, deep, authoritative, dangerously quiet. The party goes silent. Lauren's head turns almost against her will. The crowd parts like water, and through the gap walks a man who doesn't belong in sunlight. Jae Shin moves with predatory grace, his black suit absorbing the afternoon glow, his presence creating its own gravity. Intricate tattoos peek from beneath his collar, dragons in Korean script winding up his neck like secrets written on skin. His face is all sharp angles and contained violence. His eyes, so dark they're nearly black, lock onto hers with an intensity that makes her forget how to breathe. He doesn't stop until he's standing directly in front of her, so close she can smell his cologne, cedar, and something darker, more dangerous. Min-ji tries to laugh it off. "Mr. Kim, we were just—" "I wasn't speaking to you." His gaze never leaves Lauren. The crowd holds its collective breath. Then, slowly, deliberately, Jae Shin reaches out and traces one finger along the scar on her shoulder. His touch is surprisingly gentle, almost reverent. "These," he says, his voice low enough that only she can hear the first part, then louder for the crowd, "are beautiful." Before Lauren can process what's happening, he leans down and presses his lips to the scar tissue, then the next one, and the next, each kiss deliberate, possessive, a claim made in front of Seoul's elite that says, "She's mine. Anyone who touches her answers to me." When he finally pulls back, his hand slides to the small of her back, protective, proprietary, absolutely certain. "You're done hiding," he murmurs against her ear, his breath warm. Then louder to the crowd, "The party's over. Leave." No one argues with Jae Shin. As the guests scatter like startled birds, Lauren stands paralyzed in the circle of his arm, her entire world tilting on its axis. The most dangerous man in Seoul is looking at her scars like they're treasures, like he's been waiting to find them. His hand tightens slightly on her waist, and when she finally meets his eyes, she sees something that terrifies her more than the laughter ever could. Recognition. He knows. What happens when the crowd's laughter becomes deafening, when your deepest shame is exposed under the Seoul sun, and the city's most feared man decides those scars are worth kissing? Kindly hit that subscribe button because we are just getting started. The champagne had been a mistake. Lauren realizes this now, standing at the edge of the infinity pool with her second glass clutched like a lifeline, watching Seoul's elite swirl around her in their designer swimwear and careless cruelty. She'd thought the alcohol might smooth her edges, make her blend into the background chatter and artificial laughter. Instead, It's made her slow, vulnerable. The sun is relentless, beating down on the rooftop terrace with the kind of heat that makes everything shimmer. She'd chosen her spot carefully, near the cabanas, partially shaded, where she could observe without participating, where her long dark hair falling past her shoulders in careful waves might catch the light instead of her skin. But Minji Park has a predator's instinct for weakness. "Lauren, darling," Minji's voice cuts across the space between them, saccharine and sharp. "You simply must join us in the pool. All this lurking in the shadows is so American." The group around Minji laughs on cue. 6 women, all perfect, all watching Lauren with the anticipation of vultures circling something dying. Lauren forces a smile. "I'm fine here, thank you." "Oh, but you're making everyone uncomfortable, standing there all covered up." Minji gestures at Lauren's burgundy wrap dress with a dismissive flick of her wrist. "It's a pool party, not a funeral. Live a little." The other women giggle. One of them, a model whose name Lauren can't remember, whispers something behind her hand. More laughter ripples outward. Lauren's grip tightens on her glass. "Just smile. Just get through this. You need these connections for work. You need to be here." "I'm not much of a swimmer," she says, keeping her voice light, neutral. Clearly, Minji steps closer, her expression shifting from performative friendliness to something colder. "Tell me, Lauren, is it true what they say about Americans, that you're all so damaged?" The question hangs in the air like smoke. Lauren's heart begins to hammer. She knows where this is going. She can see it in Minji's eyes, in the way the other women are closing in, forming a semicircle that blocks her exit. "I don't know what you mean," Lauren says quietly. "Oh, I think you do." Minji reaches out and touches Lauren's shoulder, right where the fabric of her dress sits. Her fingers are gentle, almost curious. Then, with a swift movement that feels rehearsed, she tugs the wrap aside. The scar tissue catches the sunlight. Silver lines, raised and intricate, running from Lauren's shoulder down across her collarbone. The dress slips further, revealing more, the network of old wounds that map her survival. Minji gasps theatrically. "Oh my God, what happened to you?" The circle of women presses closer, their faces a mixture of horror and fascination. Someone pulls out a phone. Lauren tries to adjust her dress, to cover herself, but her hands are shaking too badly. "Were you in an accident?" another woman asked, but her tone suggests she doesn't believe that for a second. "Track marks?" someone else whispered, loud enough to be heard. "Or maybe someone didn't want her anymore," Minji says, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Look at how many there are, like someone tried to carve her up piece by piece." The laughter starts then, not loud, but worse, quiet, conspiratorial, the kind that says, "We all see what you really are." Lauren's vision blurs. The rooftop tilts. Every instinct screams at her to run, but her legs won't move. Her long hair falls forward as she looks down, a curtain that hides her face, but not her shame, not the scars that are now exposed for everyone to see, to photograph, to dissect over brunch tomorrow. She is dissolving, disappearing into the same helpless terror she felt 3 years ago in Atlanta when the knife was real and the screaming was hers. The laughter grows louder. And then it stopped. The silence falls like a guillotine. One moment, Lauren is drowning in their laughter, in the click of camera phones and Minji's venomous sympathy. The next, every sound cuts off as if someone has severed the audio feed to reality itself. The shift in atmosphere is physical. Lauren feels it before she understands it, a change in air pressure, in temperature, in the fundamental safety of the space. The women surrounding her take a collective step backward, their expressions transforming from cruel amusement to something closer to fear. Minji's face goes pale beneath her foundation. Lauren lifts her head, her hair falling away from her face, and follows their collective gaze toward the rooftop entrance. Jae Shin stands framed in the doorway like a portrait of elegant menace. He doesn't hurry, he doesn't need to. The crowd parts for him automatically, instinctively, the way prey animals scatter when an apex predator enters their territory. He moves with a predatory grace that makes every step deliberate, purposeful, inevitable. His black suit is perfectly tailored, the kind of expensive that whispers rather than shouts. But it's not the clothing that commands attention, it's the man inside it. He's tall, broad-shouldered, his presence filling the space in a way that has nothing to do with physical size and everything to do with power. The intricate tattoos that wind up his neck from beneath his collar catch the sunlight, dragons and Korean script that seem to move as he walks. Lauren has seen him before, always at a distance. Everyone in Seoul knows Jae Shin, even if they pretend not to. Especially if they pretend not to. He owns half the city's nightlife, and rumor says he controls the other half through means no one discusses in polite company. He is danger personified, untouchable, lethal. And he is walking directly toward her. The ends of poolside conversations die one by one as he passes. A businessman mid-sentence simply stops talking. Two women clutching cocktails freeze like statues. Even the bartender sets down his shaker with careful, reverent silence. Jae Shin's eyes are locked on Lauren with an intensity that makes her forget how to breathe. They're so dark they're almost black, and they hold something she can't name. Recognition, possession, fury barely leashed. His jaw is set, the sharp angles of his face carved from something harder than bone. He looks like violence waiting for permission. Min-ji tries to salvage the situation. She steps forward, her smile brittle and bright, her voice climbing an octave into the false cheerfulness of someone who knows they've made a catastrophic mistake but can't quite believe it yet. "Mr. Kim, what a lovely surprise! We were just—" He doesn't even glance at her. His gaze remains fixed on Lauren as he closes the distance between them, each step measured and unhurried. The tattoo on his neck, a dragon's tail, she realizes, flexes as he moves, as if the creature itself is alive and hunting. Min-ji's voice trails off into nothing. She takes another step back, nearly stumbling in her designer heels. The semicircle of women that had trapped Lauren dissolves. They scatter like birds before a storm, suddenly very interested in their drinks, their phones, the view of the city skyline, anything except the man now standing in the space they'd occupied moments ago. Lauren should run. Every survival instinct she's honed over 3 years of hiding screams at her to move, to flee, to put distance between herself and this man who radiates danger like heat. But she can't. Her legs won't work. Her body has gone into some kind of shocked paralysis, caught between the humiliation still burning through her veins and the terror of being the focal point of Jae Shin's attention. He stops directly in front of her, so close she can smell his cologne, cedar and something darker, something that reminds her of expensive whiskey and burnt sugar. So close she has to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. The rooftop terrace might as well be empty. There are still 50 people scattered around the pool, still servers carrying trays of canapes, still music playing from hidden speakers. But none of it exists. The world has contracted to this, the man in front of her and the electric silence stretching between them. His gaze drops to her shoulder, to the scars Min-ji exposed with such theatrical cruelty. Something flickers across his expression. Rage, yes, but something else too, something almost tender. When he finally speaks, his voice is low, controlled, each word precisely enunciated in a way that makes it carry despite the quietness. Who touched you? It's not a question, it's a reckoning. Lauren's voice won't work. The question hangs between them, who touched you? And she can't find the words to answer because the truth is complicated, and he means right now, this moment, this humiliation, and the answer is standing 10 feet away, pretending to study her champagne flute. Jae Shin doesn't wait for her response. His eyes track the direction of her fractional glance, landing on Min-ji with the precision of a sniper acquiring a target. "You," he says, and the single syllable carries enough weight to make Min-ji flinch. "Mr. Kim, it was just, she was standing there all covered up and we thought—" "You thought." His voice is soft, dangerous, the kind of quiet that precedes violence. "You thought you had the right to put your hands on her, to expose her, to make her a spectacle for your entertainment." Min-ji's mouth opens and closes soundlessly. Her friends have abandoned her, melting into the crowd of onlookers who are all suddenly very interested in pretending they're not watching this unfold. Jae Shin turns back to Lauren. His expression shifts, the fury banking into something more controlled but no less intense. He reaches up slowly, giving her time to pull away, and adjusts the fabric of her wrap dress back into place over her shoulder. His fingers are gentle, almost reverent as they smooth the burgundy silk. "These," he says, quietly, his eyes meeting hers, "belong to you, not to them, not to anyone's judgment or commentary or cruel curiosity." His hand lingers on her shoulder, warm through the thin fabric. "Do you understand?" Lauren nods, because words are still impossible. Her heart is hammering so hard she's certain he can feel it, can hear it, can sense the terror and confusion and something else, something dangerous that's flooding through her system. Then Jae Shin does something that stops time completely. He leans down and presses his lips to the scar on her shoulder, the one Min-ji exposed, the one that catches the light in silver ridges. The kiss is soft, deliberate, achingly gentle. Lauren feels it like an electric shock through her entire body. He doesn't stop there. His hand slides to cup the back of her neck, steadying her as he traces a path with his mouth across her collarbone to the next scar and the next. Each kiss is a claim, a statement, a defiance of everything the crowd was laughing at moments ago. His lips are warm against her skin, and she can feel the controlled strength in him, the leashed power that could destroy her or protect her with equal ease. The rooftop is silent, except for the sound of her ragged breathing and the distant hum of the city below. When he finally pulls back, his hand remains at her neck, his thumb brushing against her pulse point where her heartbeat betrays every emotion she's trying to hide. His eyes are molten, fierce with something that looks like possession. "Beautiful," he murmurs, just for her. Then, louder, his voice carrying across the terrace with clipped authority, "Anyone who disagrees can leave, now." No one moves. The crowd is frozen, caught between fascination and fear. Jae Shin's expression hardens. He turns his head slightly, his gaze sweeping across the assembled guests with the kind of cold assessment that makes grown men reconsider their life choices. When he speaks again, his voice is sharp enough to cut. "I'm not in the habit of repeating myself. This party is over. You have 5 minutes to collect your things and exit this building. Anyone still here after that will be escorted out by my security, and I promise you, you won't enjoy the experience." The crowd breaks. Suddenly everyone is moving, grabbing bags, wrapping towels around themselves, whispering urgently into phones as they hurry toward the elevator. Min-ji tries to slip away with the crowd, but Jae Shin's voice stops her cold.
"Not you, Miss Park." She freezes, her face draining of what little color remained. "You'll be hearing from my attorney about the photos I saw you taking, and if I find out those images exist anywhere, on your phone, on social media, in someone else's possession, you'll discover exactly how unpleasant I can make life for people who displease me. Am I clear?" Min-ji nods frantically. Yes, Mr. Kim. I'm sorry, I didn't know she was—" "Get out." She runs. Within 3 minutes, the rooftop terrace is empty, except for Lauren and the man whose hand is still curved protectively around the back of her neck, anchoring her to this moment, to this new reality where her scars have been kissed instead of mocked. Jae Shin looks down at her, and for the first time she sees the hint of a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. "Now," he says softly, "we talk." The elevator ride is silent except for the soft hum of machinery and Lauren's uneven breathing. Jae Shin stands beside her, not touching, but close enough that she can feel the heat radiating from him, close enough that his presence fills the small space like smoke. His hand hovers near the small of her back, not quite making contact, but the promise of it there, protective and possessive in equal measure. Lauren stares at her reflection in the polished steel doors. Her makeup is smudged, her carefully styled hair now wild around her face, her wrap dress askew despite his earlier adjustment. She looks exactly like what she is, a woman who's just had her worst nightmare play out in front of Seoul's elite. "Where are we going?" Her voice comes out smaller than she intended. "Somewhere safe." Jae Shin's tone is matter-of-fact, as if kidnapping traumatized women from rooftop parties is just another Tuesday for him. "You need time to recover before you face the world again." "I should just go home." "No." The word is soft but absolute. "You shouldn't." The elevator opens directly into a penthouse that makes the rooftop party look provincial by comparison. Lauren steps out onto polished concrete floors that reflect the floor-to-ceiling windows spanning the entire western wall. Seoul spreads out below them in a glittering sprawl of steel and neon, the Han River cutting through the city like a silver artery. The space is minimalist to the point of severity, monochrome palette, black, white, shades of gray, clean lines and sharp angles. A massive leather sectional faces the windows. Abstract art that probably costs more than her annual salary hangs on the walls. Everything is pristine, controlled, revealing nothing about the man who lives here except that he values power over comfort. "Sit," Jae Shin says, gesturing toward the sectional. It's not quite a command, but it's not a request either. Lauren's legs are shaking badly enough that sitting seems an excellent idea regardless of whether he's ordering her to do it. She sinks into the leather, and it's absurdly comfortable despite looking like something from an architecture magazine. Her hands twist in her lap, still trembling with residual adrenaline. Jae Shin shoulds out of his suit jacket with fluid grace, draping it over the back of a chair. The movement reveals more of his tattoos, dragons winding around his forearms, Korean script running along his inner wrist, the edge of something larger disappearing beneath his rolled shirt sleeves. He moves to a bar cart that looks like a sculpture and pours amber liquid into 2 crystal glasses without asking if she wants one. "Drink this," he returns, and presses the glass into her hand. "You're in shock." "I'm fine." His eyebrow arches, and even that small expression carries weight. "You're shaking so hard you can barely hold the glass. You're not fine."
Lauren takes a sip because arguing seems pointless, and because the whiskey burns in a way that feels grounding, real, pulling her back into her body. It's expensive, smooth and complex with notes of oak and smoke, the kind of thing she could never afford on her analyst salary. Jae Shin settles into the space beside her, close but not crowding, his long legs stretched out in front of him. He holds his own glass loosely, the whiskey catching the light from the windows. For a moment, they just sit in silence, watching the city below begin its transition from afternoon to evening. "Why did you do that?" Lauren finally asks. The question has been building since the rooftop, since his lips touched her scars, since he cleared an entire party with nothing but his presence and a few clipped words. "Which part?" "All of it. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything." Jae Shin takes a slow sip of his whiskey, considering.
When he speaks, his voice is quieter than before, almost contemplative. "I've been watching you for 3 months, Lauren." Her head whips toward him, panic spiking fresh through her system. "What?" "You come to certain restaurants, certain clubs, always alone, always careful, always trying to blend into the background." His dark eyes meet hers, unreadable. "You're running from something, or someone, and you're very good at it. Good enough that most people don't notice you at all. But you noticed." "I notice everything." He sets his glass down on the concrete coffee table with a soft click. "Especially when something doesn't fit the pattern. You don't belong in those places, not really. You're playing a role, maintaining appearances for work, forcing yourself into spaces that terrify you." Lauren's throat tightens. "You had no right to watch?" "No, probably not." His smile is sharp, unapologetic. "I'm not in the habit of apologizing for my nature. I see things other people miss. I collect information. It's what keeps me alive in my line of work." "And what is your line of work, exactly?" "I think you already know the answer to that." She does. Everyone knows. Jae Shin doesn't hide what he is. He just makes people too afraid to speak it out loud. Jae Shin stands and moves to the kitchen, if the sleek stretch of black granite and hidden appliances can be called a kitchen. Lauren watches him navigate the space with the same controlled grace he brings to everything else, pulling out an espresso machine that looks like it belongs in a high-end cafe. "Coffee?" he asks, though he's already grinding beans. "It's 4 in the afternoon. And you've just survived a public humiliation, followed by an involuntary rescue by Seoul's most dangerous man. I'd say caffeine is appropriate." The machine hisses to life, filling the penthouse with the rich, bitter scent of dark roast. "Besides, we're going to be here for a while. You might as well be alert for it." Lauren should argue, should demand to leave, to go back to her small apartment in Itaewon where she can lock the door and pretend this day never happened. But the truth is, she doesn't want to be alone right now. Doesn't want to face the empty silence and the inevitable spiral of shame and fear that will consume her the moment she's by herself. So she stays. Jae Shin returns with 2 small cups of espresso, black and bitter and perfect. He hands her one and settles back into the sectional, this time angled slightly toward her, his attention fully focused in a way that makes her feel both seen and vulnerable. "Tell me about Atlanta," he says. Lauren's hand freezes halfway to her mouth. "How do you—" "I told you. I notice things. Your accent is faint, but it's there. Southern American, educated out of you, but not completely gone. You've been in Seoul for 2.5 years, arrived on a work visa, financial analyst for a mid-tier consulting firm." He takes a sip of his espresso, his eyes never leaving hers. "But that's just data. What I want to know is why a woman with your credentials is hiding in a job that's beneath her skill level, why you avoid American expat circles entirely, and why you look like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop every time you walk into a room." Lauren sets her cup down carefully because her hands are shaking again. "You really have been watching me. I have people who watch everyone. You just happened to be interesting." "Why?" "Because fear like yours doesn't come from nothing, and scars like yours," he gestures vaguely at her shoulder, "tell a story worth knowing." The words sit between them, heavy with implication. Lauren could lie, could deflect, could maintain the careful fiction she's built over 2.5 years of running, but something about this moment, this man, this pristine penthouse floating above a city where she's tried so hard to disappear, something about it all makes the truth feel inevitable. "His name was Marcus," she says finally, and the name tastes like ash in her mouth. "We met at Emory. I was getting my MBA, he was finishing law school. Smart, charming, came from old money. Everyone thought we were perfect together." Jae Shin says nothing, just listens with the kind of focused attention that makes her feel like every word matters. "I tried to leave twice. Both times he found me. Said he couldn't live without me, that I was his everything, that he'd change." "He didn't change," Jae Shin says quietly. "No, he got worse." Lauren's voice drops to barely above a whisper. The night I got these scars, we were at his family's estate outside Atlanta. I told him I was done, that I was leaving for good. He locked the doors, took my phone, said if he couldn't have me, he'd make sure no one else would want me. The silence that follows is heavy, filled with everything she's not saying, the terror, the pain, the sound of her own screaming, the feeling of the knife against her skin as Marcus carved his ownership into her body with methodical precision.
He used a fillet knife, she continues, because now that she's started, she can't stop. The words are pouring out like poison she's held too long. Said he wanted to take his time, make it artistic. He was always obsessed with control, with perfection. This was just another project for him. Jae Shin's jaw tightens, the only visible sign of his reaction. His knuckles are white around his empty espresso cup. I got away because his mother came home early, heard me screaming, called 911. Lauren laughs, but there's no humor in it. Marcus told the police I was unstable, that I'd hurt myself because he broke up with me. His family hired the best lawyers money could buy, made me look like an obsessive ex-girlfriend who couldn't handle rejection. Let me guess, Jae Shin says, his voice cold with fury that isn't directed at her. Wealthy family, connected, made the whole thing disappear. Restraining order got dropped, case went nowhere. I testified and they destroyed me on the stand. Every mistake I'd ever made, every insecurity, every moment of weakness turned into evidence that I was the problem. She meets his eyes, and there's something like defiance in her gaze now. So I ran, used what was left of my savings to get as far away as possible. Seoul seemed random enough that he'd never think to look here. But you're not sure, Jae Shin observes. You're still looking over your shoulder. Always. The word comes out broken. Marcus doesn't let things go, doesn't let people leave him. I know he's looking, know that one day he'll find me and finish what he started. Jae Shin sets down his cup with deliberate care and turns to face her fully. His expression is unreadable, but there's something burning in his dark eyes, something that looks like promise and threat woven together. No, he says simply, he won't. The weight of those two words, he won't, hangs in the air between them like a vow. Lauren wants to believe him, wants to accept the absolute certainty in Jae Shin's voice as truth, but she's lived with fear too long to trust easy promises, even from a man who just cleared a rooftop full of Seoul's elite with nothing but his presence. You can't know that, she says, hating how small her voice sounds. Jae Shin stands and moves to a minimalist desk tucked against the far wall, all clean lines and hidden compartments. He opens a drawer and pulls out a manila folder, the kind that looks innocuous but somehow feels weighted with significance. When he returns to the sectional, he doesn't sit. Instead, he places the folder on the coffee table between them and flips it open. Lauren's stomach drops. Inside are photographs, documents, printed emails, her entire life in Atlanta, cataloged and organized with clinical precision. There's her MBA graduation photo, Marcus beside her with his arm possessively around her waist, police reports from the night at the estate, hospital records documenting her injuries, court transcripts that make her nauseous to look at. And then, worse, recent photos. Marcus outside what looks like a private investigator's office in Atlanta, flight records showing trips to Tokyo, Hong Kong, Singapore. A printed social media post from one of his law school friends, geotagged in Seoul from 3 weeks ago. What is this? Lauren's voice comes out strangled. Background check, Jae Shin says. His tone is matter-of-fact, as if knowing things is perfectly normal behavior. Information is currency in my world. The more you know, the less likely you are to be surprised, and surprises get people killed. Lauren tears her eyes away from the photographs to stare at him. How long have you had this? 2 months, maybe closer to 3. He sits back down, closer this time, his presence somehow both threatening and protective. I noticed you in January. By February, I knew everything about your life in Atlanta. By March, I knew Marcus Chen was actively searching for you. The name spoken aloud makes her flinch. She hasn't heard anyone say it in over 2 years, has tried to pretend that man doesn't exist anymore, that the nightmare ended when she boarded a plane to Seoul.
Marcus hired a firm that specializes in locating people who don't want to be found. Good firm, expensive. They've been working their way through your possible locations systematically. Started with Europe, moved to Southeast Asia. They're getting closer. Lauren feels the room tilt. How close? Close enough that you should be concerned. Jae Shin pulls out another document, a report dated 5 days ago. They've narrowed it down to 3 cities, Seoul, Busan, and Tokyo. They're currently investigating financial records, employment databases, visa applications. Your consulting firm's HR department has already been contacted by someone claiming to be verifying your credentials for a potential opportunity. Oh, God. Lauren's hand goes to her throat, where her pulse is hammering wildly. He's going to find me. Yes, Jae Shin says bluntly, and she almost hates him for the honesty. If things continue on the current trajectory, Marcus will have your exact location in 2 to 3 weeks, maybe sooner if he gets lucky or if someone at your firm is careless with information.
The panic that's been simmering beneath the surface since the rooftop erupts fully now. Lauren stands abruptly, the sudden movement making her dizzy. I have to leave. I have to run again. Maybe Singapore, or maybe... Sit down. Jae Shin's voice cuts through her spiral with quiet authority. You don't understand. He'll... I said, sit down, Lauren. This time it's a command, gentle but absolute. When she doesn't immediately comply, he reaches out and guides her back to the sectional with a hand on her wrist. His grip is firm but careful, mindful of the way she's trembling. Running again won't solve anything. You've been running for 2.5 years and he's still found you. What makes you think the next city will be any different? I don't know. The voices come out too loud, edged with hysteria. But I have to try. I can't just wait here for him to show up and finish what he started. No, Jae Shin agrees, and something in his expression shifts, becomes harder, more calculating. You can't, which is why you're going to stop running and start fighting back. Lauren stares at him. I can't fight Marcus. He has money, connections, lawyers. And I have something better. Jae Shin leans forward, his dark eyes locked on hers with an intensity that steals her breath. I have power. Real power. Not the sanitized legal kind that can be manipulated by expensive attorneys. The kind of power that makes problems disappear permanently. The implications of what he's suggesting settle over her like ice water. I'm talking about protection, about making it very clear to Marcus Chen that you are off limits, that pursuing you further would be the last mistake he ever makes. Jae Shin's voice is calm, almost casual, but there's steel underneath. I'm talking about giving you the one thing you haven't had since that night in Atlanta. Safety. Why? The question bursts out of her. Why would you do that for me? You don't know me. This isn't your problem. Jae Shin reaches out and touches her scar on her shoulder again, the same one he kissed on the rooftop, his fingers tracing the ridge of damaged tissue through her dress. It became my problem the moment I decided you were mine. The possessiveness in his tone should terrify her, should send every alarm bell in her head ringing. Instead, it settles something deep in her chest, some wounded, hunted part of her that's so tired of being frayed. I can't pay you, she says quietly. Whatever this costs, whatever you want in return, I don't want your money. His hand slides from her shoulder to cup her jaw, tilting her face up to meet his gaze locked on hers. I want you to work for me. Lauren's breath catches. Of all the things she expected him to say, this wasn't on the list. Work for you. You're a financial analyst, a good one from what I understand. Graduated top of your class at Emory, specialized in forensic accounting and money laundering detection. Skills like that are valuable in my line of work. Your line of work is illegal. My line of work exists in the gray spaces between legal and illegal, he corrects, finally dropping his hand from her face. The loss of contact feels significant. I own legitimate businesses, nightclubs, restaurants, real estate, but I also move money for people who prefer their transactions remain private. I need someone who can keep my books clean, who can spot problems before they become catastrophic,
who understands how to make large sums of money appear and disappear without attracting unwanted attention. Lauren's mind races. She'd spent 2.5 years deliberately working beneath her skill level, taking jobs that wouldn't draw scrutiny, that wouldn't put her name in any databases Marcus might search. Now, Jae Shin was asking her to do exactly the opposite, to step into the light, to use her talents in ways that would make her visible, memorable, valuable, dangerous. And in exchange, she asked, though she already knew the answer. Absolute protection. Jae Shin leans back, his posture relaxed, but his eyes sharp, watching her process this. You work for me. You live under my protection. No one touches you. No one threatens you. And if Marcus Chen is foolish enough to come to Seoul looking for you, he'll discover very quickly that some women are more trouble than they're worth.
You'd kill him. It's not a question. I'd do whatever was necessary to eliminate the threat. His voice is matter-of-fact, as if discussing the weather. But let's be clear, Marcus is only the immediate problem. The real issue is that you've been living like a ghost, afraid to exist fully because you're terrified someone will notice you. That ends now. You work for me. You have resources, security, the kind of protection that doesn't come from restraining orders and useless police reports. Lauren stands and walks to the floor-to-ceiling windows, needing distance to think. Seoul stretches out below her in the fading afternoon light, millions of people living their ordinary lives, unaware that in this penthouse, her entire future is being negotiated like a business transaction. What you're describing sounds like ownership, she says quietly, her reflection ghostly in the glass. Like I'd be trading one cage for another. Does it? Jae Shin's voice comes from directly behind her, close enough that she can feel the heat of him without touching. Because from where I'm standing, a cage has locks on the inside. What I'm offering is a partnership. You have value to me beyond your fear, beyond your trauma. You have skills I need, intelligence I can use. In return, I give you something you haven't had in years, the ability to stop running. Lauren turns to face him, and the intensity in his dark eyes is almost overwhelming. And if I say no, then you walk out of here, go back to your small apartment in Itaewon, and wait for Marcus to find you. Jae Shin's expression doesn't change, but there's something almost sad in his voice. We both know how that story ends. The truth of it sits like lead in her stomach. Marcus will find her. It's not a question of if, but when. And when he does, there will be no one to stop him from finishing what he started, no one to hear her scream, no one who cares enough to intervene. Except, apparently, the dangerous man standing in front of her, offering her a devil's bargain wrapped in protection and purpose. What you're describing entails, exactly, terms, conditions, what you expect from me. Jae Shin's mouth curves into something that might be approval. You'll manage my financial operations. Clean books for the legitimate businesses, creative accounting for the less legitimate ones. You'll have an office, a salary that reflects your actual worth, and access to resources you need to do the job properly. And the protection? You live in a secured building, drive a secured vehicle, 24-hour security team that reports directly to me. Anyone who wants to get close to you has to go through multiple layers of people whose job it is to keep you safe. And they're very good at their job. How good? I haven't lost anyone I've chosen to protect, not once. The promise in those words is absolute, unwavering. Kim Jae Shin doesn't make guarantees he can't keep. Lauren looks at him, really looks at him, this man who kissed her scars in front of Seoul's elite, who's been watching her for months, who's offering her something she thought was impossible, a way to stop being prey. When would I start? She asks. His smile is sharp, victorious. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. sharp. The dress arrives at Lauren's apartment at 7 in the morning, delivered by a woman in a sleek black suit who introduces herself simply as Min So, and looks like she could kill someone with her bare hands if the situation required it. Mr. Kim thought you might need this for tonight, Min So says, handing over a garment bag that probably costs more than Lauren's monthly rent. He'll send a car at 9. Lauren wants to protest that she has her own clothes, that she doesn't need Jae Shin dressing her like some kind of doll. But when she unzips the bag, her words die in her throat.
The dress is midnight blue, almost black in certain light, with a plunging neckline at a back that barely exists. The fabric is silk, real silk, the kind that moves like water. It's elegant and dangerous, and nothing like the careful, conservative pieces Lauren has been hiding in for 2.5 years. There's a note pinned to the hanger in sharp, precise handwriting. No more hiding, J.S. She should be angry, should resent the presumption, the control, the way he's already reshaping her life to fit his vision. Instead, she finds herself showering, doing her makeup with more care than she has in months, and sliding into the dress like she's putting on armor. When she looks at herself in the mirror, she barely recognizes the woman staring back. Her scars are visible. The dress is designed that way, she realizes now, cut specifically to showcase rather than conceal the silver lines on her shoulder and collarbone. Her long, dark hair falls in loose waves, and her eyes are lined with just enough kohl to make them look dangerous. She looks like someone who belongs in Jae Shin's world.
The club is in Gangnam, tucked behind an unmarked door that you'd walk past 100 times without noticing if you didn't know it was there. Min-so leads her through a private entrance, past velvet ropes and security that look more like military operatives than nightclub bouncers. The bass is heavy enough to feel in her chest, and the lighting is all shadows and strategic spotlights that make everything look like a fever dream. Jae Shin is holding court in a private section elevated above the main floor, surrounded by men in expensive suits who all straighten slightly when Min-so approaches with Lauren in tow. The conversation dies as they notice her, eyes tracking her movement with varying degrees of interest and assessment. Jae Shin's reaction is more subtle but somehow more intense. His gaze sweeps over her from head to toe, lingering on the visible scars, on the way the dress moves with her body, on the confidence she's forcing into every step despite the terror churning in her stomach. Something dark and possessive flashes across his expression. He stands, dismissing the men around him with a slight gesture that has them melting away immediately. When he reaches her, he takes her hand and brings it to his lips, the gesture old-fashioned and intimate and completely at odds with the modern club pulsing around them. "Beautiful," he murmurs at her knuckles. Then, louder to the room, "Everyone, this is Lauren Baumberger. She works for me now. Treat her accordingly." The message is clear. She's under his protection, his authority, his wing. Anyone who touches her answers to him. Lauren feels the shift immediately. The way people look at her changes, not with pity or disgust like at the pool party, but with careful respect mixed with curiosity. She's no longer invisible, no longer someone to be mocked or dismissed. She's someone who matters because Kim Jae Shin has decided she matters. Jae Shin guides her to the plush seating, his hand warm against her lower back. "You look terrified," he observes quietly, close enough that only she can hear over the music. "I am terrified. Every instinct I have is screaming at me to run, to hide, to make myself small again." "Don't." His hand slides up her spine to rest between her shoulder blades. "This version of you died on my rooftop yesterday. This version doesn't run. This version stands beside me and shows the world exactly who you are." "And who am I?" "Someone who survived." His dark eyes hold hers, intense and unwavering. "Someone who's done being prey." A woman approaches, young, beautiful, clearly one of the club's VIP guests. She glances at Lauren's scars with curiosity, but no judgment, then smiles at Jae Shin. "Is this her, the one from yesterday?" "This is Lauren," Jae Shin confirms, his tone allowing no further elaboration. The other woman extends her hand to Lauren directly, a gesture of respect that surprises her. "I'm Ji-woo. I was at the party. What you did, standing there while he kissed your scars like that, it was the most powerful thing I've ever seen." Lauren blinks, thrown. "I didn't do anything. I just stood there." "Exactly." Ji-woo's smile widens. "You didn't run, you didn't hide, you let him claim you in front of everyone. That takes courage." As Ji-woo drifts away, Lauren turns to Jae Shin. "Is that what people think? That I let you claim me?" "Yes." His hand tightens slightly on her back, "because that's exactly what happened. And now everyone knows you're mine to protect, mine to value, mine to defend." He leans closer, his breath warm against her ear. "The question is,
Are you ready to stop being hunted and start being untouchable? Lauren looks out at the club, at the people who are watching her with new eyes, at the world that suddenly seems full of possibility instead of danger. Yes, she whispers, I'm ready. Lauren arrives at the address Min-so texted her at 9:45, giving herself exactly 15 minutes to find the right entrance and compose herself before the appointed time. The building is in Gangnam, all gleaming glass and steel that screams money and power. The lobby is marble and minimalist design, with security that look more like Secret Service than building guards. She gives her name at the desk, and the receptionist's entire demeanor shifts. No more polite corporate smile, instead genuine deference, the kind reserved for people who matter.
Ms. Baumberger, Mr. Kim is expecting you, top floor. The elevator on the left will take you directly to his office. The elevator requires a key card that the receptionist provides with a small bow. Lauren steps inside, watching the numbers climb, 20, 30, 40 floors, her reflection multiplying in the mirrored walls. She's wearing a tailored black suit that appeared in her apartment this morning, along with a note, "For work, same rules apply, J.S." The suit is perfect, expensive, cut to show her scars rather than hide them, the jacket's neckline dipping low enough that the silver lines across her collarbone are visible. She looks professional and dangerous in equal measure, like someone who belongs in a world where power is currency and weakness gets you killed. The elevator opens directly into a reception area that could double as a modern art gallery. Floor-to-ceiling windows offer a panoramic view of Seoul, the city spread out below like a kingdom. A woman sits at a sleek desk, older than Min-seo, with silver streaking her black hair and eyes that miss nothing. "Ms. Baumberger, I'm Hae-won, Mr. Kim's executive assistant. He's finishing a call. Your office is ready." She stands and gestures down a hallway lined with abstract paintings that probably cost more than Lauren earned in her entire previous career. "I'll show you." The office is smaller than Jae Shin's, but no less impressive. Same floor-to-ceiling windows, same minimalist aesthetic. There's a standing desk with 3 monitors already set up, a leather chair that looks ergonomically perfect, and a bookshelf that's currently empty, but clearly waiting to be filled with whatever she needs. On the desk sits a thin folder and another note in that familiar sharp handwriting. "Everything you need to get started. Welcome to the Empire. J.S." Lauren opens the folder. Inside are access credentials to dozens of accounts, corporate structures that make her head spin with their complexity, and a single sheet summarizing her official role. Chief Financial Officer, Kim Enterprises. Salary, enough to make her previous job look like an internship. Start date, today. "He doesn't waste time, does he?" Lauren murmurs. "Mr. Kim believes hesitation is weakness," Miss Hae-won says from the doorway. "He makes decisions and acts on them immediately. It's why he's successful." She checks her watch, an elegant piece that probably costs more than a car. "It's 9:58. He'll want to see you at exactly 10 a.m. Lauren follows Miss Hae-won down the hall to double doors made of dark wood that look like they belong in a castle. Miss Hae-won knocks once, waits for the clipped "come in," and opens the door. Jae Shin's office is twice the size of hers, with the same dramatic windows, but also a seating area with leather furniture, a bar that looks like a sculpture, and walls lined with art that she suspects is original, despite looking abstract enough to be anything. He's behind his desk, ending a phone call in rapid Korean that sounds like he's dismantling someone's entire existence with clinical precision. He sees her and holds up one finger. "Wait." Lauren steps inside, and Miss Hae-won closes the door behind her, leaving them alone. She takes the moment to study him in his natural habitat. He's in a black suit that fits him like it was painted on, his tattoos visible at his collar and wrists, his dark eyes focused on whatever unfortunate person is on the other end of the phone. He looks exactly like what he is, a man who built an empire on the bones of his enemies. "Handle it," he says finally, and ends the call without waiting for a response. Then his full attention turns to Lauren, and the intensity of it is like standing in a spotlight. 10 a.m. sharp. I'm impressed." "You said sharp. I assumed that meant on time." "Most people assume it means within 5 minutes.
You're already exceeding expectations. He stands and moves around the desk, his measured approach deliberate. How does the office look?
Like you're paying me too much. I'm paying you exactly what you're worth, possibly less depending on what I find in the books over the next few months. He stops in front of her, close enough that she can smell his cologne, that same cedar and dark sugar that's becoming familiar. Ready to see what you've signed up for? That's why I'm here. Jae Shin's smile is sharp with approval. He returns to his desk and opens a laptop, turning it so she can see the screen. This is the legitimate side. 15 nightclubs, 8 restaurants, 12 commercial properties. Revenue streams are clean, taxes are current, everything is above board. Lauren scans the numbers, her analyst brain automatically cataloging patterns and inconsistencies. These clubs are profitable, but not as profitable as they should be given their locations and clientele. Observant? He pulls up another screen. That's because the real money moves through here. This screen is different, encrypted, password protected, showing financial flows that make her stomach drop. Money moving through shell corporations, offshore accounts, cryptocurrency exchanges. It's sophisticated, almost beautiful in its complexity, and completely illegal. Money laundering, she says quietly. Asset management for clients who value discretion. His tone is matter of fact. Your job is to make sure these two worlds never touch, that the legitimate businesses stay clean, and that the less legitimate operations remain invisible to anyone who might ask uncomfortable questions. Lauren should be horrified, should be calling the police, walking out, protecting herself from the legal nightmare she's just stepped into. Instead, she leans closer to the screen, her mind already working through the structures, identifying vulnerabilities, seeing ways to make the system cleaner, more efficient, more secure. This account here, she points to a cryptocurrency exchange, it's too exposed. One subpoena and the whole thing unravels backward. I know. That's why you're here. Jae Shin moves to stand beside her, his shoulder brushing hers. Fix it. Fix all of it. Make me untouchable. Lauren turns to look at him, this dangerous man who's offering her something she never thought she'd have again. Purpose, value, a life where her scars are proof of survival rather than shame. When do I start? You already have. She nods, something settling in her chest, something that feels like power, like choice, like the beginning of a life where she's no longer running. Then let's get to work.